My name is Ulgar Dogru. I've been living in Tartu for the last 6 years. I was originally from Austin, Texas, but I've lived all around the world. I've lived in Norway, lived in Saudi Arabia, I've lived in Michigan, California. And today, really, I want to talk about something that's been interesting to me from a young age. And it's how people that are successful, how they do it repeatedly over and over again. And it's something that's been constantly interesting me. And today what I want to go over is how to ensure methodical success with metrics. So, how to statistically reduce your risk of entering a market by developing metrics. So, I think everyone knows what these are. Does everyone know what these are? How many people know what these are? How many people here for marketing? Okay, well, it looks like an eye chart. Let's forget all this, right? It looks complicated, but that's cost per click, lifetime value, cost per action, average revenue per user, cost per install, ROI. Let's forget about all these for a second. Yeah. So, one of the most important things in any business is the cost to acquire a client. And there's lots of things that you can really reduce that cost by viral marketing, inbound marketing. There's a lot of ways that you can reduce that cost. But in the end, you're going to take a customer from someone else, and there's going to be costs associated with that, and there's going to be lifetime value. This is like the most important thing to understand with any business before you go into it. So now I've been doing a lot of businesses. I'm much more educated on how to do this. So here's a game we're going to do in Facebook with a friend. And the first thing we did calculations. How much is it going to cost to purchase each user? What's the expected viral growth? What's the conversion rate? All that's projected, and that basically drives how we build the product. So let's skip that as well for now. Quick background on myself. I think it's important to know the person and how they got to where they are, and a little bit of the personality. So as a kid, my parents lugged me around in the university. This is me. You can see I'm a very unhappy person. This is school, and I shouldn't be in school at this time. And this is Caltech. Parents still lugging me around school. I mean, I really did not like school. And I wish I saw these photos much earlier on, because I would realize that I don't like school. And it's pretty obvious here. But then something amazing happened. Computers came out, and my cousin was a PhD student, and he built the first PC. It was on an OS called CP/M, which is basically DOS, which Microsoft stole it, and they ended up paying for it later on. And so this is my first computer, and now I was a very excited person. It was much more, I'm a much more hands-on person, and classrooms were really not the kind of style for me. And so here's my first computers. You guys know this. I was writing games and Commodore 64, and then the modem came out. I was in boarding school in Michigan. I was really into hacking. This is before the internet really was around. So you had modems, and we didn't have phone lines in our room. So we did some night missions, and we wired the newspaper room to go through the electrical line and come back out. And so modems were a very interesting thing for me, as it connected a lot of minds. And I was really into the hacking stuff until one day some FBI guys came, and they took my friend away, and I said, okay, this is really dangerous, this hacking thing, so I'll just go back to school. And anyway, I was in Michigan, and then I went to the University of Texas at Austin. I was an undergraduate in electrical engineering, and it was right during the dot-com boom, and I had was about to finish electrical engineering, but I'd been programming since I was 8, so I said, why not just go back and start working for some companies? So actually, I dropped out electrical engineering. I had just entered computer science, but the program was really backlogged. I had to wait like 6 months to a year to take a class. I'm like, I can't do that. So the first company I started working with was Austin Digital. It was an aircraft data recorder company. Then I was at Dell. I was a lead engineer, helped design the motherboard testing process. And then I created my own company, NewScribe, and iMedicore, which we'll talk about. So here was the first company I was part of, and it was a very metrics-driven company. It was Austin Digital, and just 6 months ago, they got acquired by GE, And what we would do basically is analyze aircraft data recorder information for FedEx, Lufthansa, Swissair. And the issue was that there's a high latency in retrieval of the aircraft data recorders, and there was a lot of costs associated with it too. So if you're flying a FedEx cargo plane, those planes go through serious loads, and you have to know every second of the flight what happened, so you know to change your maintenance schedules, and there's a lot of costs associated with that. So this was a very metric-driven company I was part of, and the process was, they collect data, and getting from the data all the way to the analysis was taking like 3 to 6 months. So what I built was something called a remote data station, that thing at the top there, and that basically just, we sold that for $7,000, and it would basically connect to one of these portal recorders that would connect to the black box, download all the data, and then from that remote data station, I was able to send it to like American Airlines headquarters, and they were able to analyze the data. So this is like the first company I was kind of part of, and we did event measurement systems, and the maintenance cycles were changed depending on that. So why measure? It's a pretty simple question, and the thing I learned at Dell is you can't manage what you can't measure. If you can't measure it, you can't manage it. How do you know day in, day out you're doing something better or worse? You have no clue. So it's really important. I came from Dell, and everywhere you went, it was customer experience. There was metrics on customer experience. There was data from lightning strikes on how that affected support issues to, we're going to ramp up sales, and we would have to hire more people. We would really plus or minus 5%. Really, it was a metrics-driven organization. There's projectors everywhere. At any second of the day, you could go into the sales floor and see how everything was performing. So, very metrics-driven company, and how did they go bad? How did the customer experience go so bad, right? They were the first to do just-in-time inventory, just-in-time builds, and actually that wasn't something Michael Dell did. It's from George Kosmetzky, and you can read a book called Zero Time. He's the real guy that really innovated Dell and took Dell to the government. So you've got a company here that's highly metrics-driven, but somehow in the last 6 years, the customer support has tanked. Well, they outsourced support, right? So, and this is the thing, it was interesting. I got all these meetings, and it was 99.8% customer experience. Every metrics are all there, and all the customers say, we don't like the computer, we don't like your support. And so this is what I call figures lie and liars figure. In a company, for some reason, people get really creative with numbers, and they don't want to show how badly they're doing, so they end up changing metrics. And I see this happen to a lot of big companies. And you're wondering, how can they, like a car manufacturer, how do they, it costs the same to bend the same metal, put it together, and some just look terrible, and some look great. How is that's possible? Well, so where to measure? Well, the most important place to measure is at the end consumer. And you want a system in place which is real time, there's zero latency, it engages the customer in the process, and you really focus on this negative feedback. So what is the formula for work? Does anyone know the formula for work? Physics. You guys had physics here in high school, right? What's the formula for work? Anybody? Yes? Work equals force times distance, right? So I'm starting really simple here, and we'll get more complicated, but in everything you do, you're trying to reduce the amount of force, because you're going to do the same amount of work every day. As human beings, we do work. So you really want to reduce force, and you want to increase the distance. So the least amount of force, did I get the maximum distance? That's work, right? So if I put a lot of force and get little zero distance, I've done literally zero actual work. And working efficiently, not hard, is the key. So you need to define your goals and key performance indicators, and you always think about the customer. In the end, who is the person going to purchase my product, services? Who is going to give me the best information on how to build the next version? So really, it's getting as close to the customer as possible. And how efficiently are you reaching your goals? Those can be measured. So this is an interesting thing. I was working at Dell as a lead engineer, then I was an internal auditor for 2 years, so I worked a lot with operational controls and quantifying risks to the company. And the last year I worked on sales, and I was driving home one day, and I was really good at measuring everything else, quantifying things, but I never thought to measure myself. So I thought to myself, I drive 2 hours a day. That's 30.4 days of driving straight a year, right? So let's say if I just needed to get this driving thing out of the way, that would be 12 hours a day for 2 months. So 2 months of my life is going to driving. And that made me really upset inside, because I was really good at measuring other things, but I never measured myself. So it's really important to make sure you don't end up in this pattern here. So measurements really help avoid this, and it also helps you in your personal life as well. If you have some certain goals, you really need to measure. Am I doing things that are efficiently hitting that goal? So measure your efficiency in performing work, measure your company's efficiency in performing your goals. And measure yourself. Like I said, I measured everything else, but I completely forgot to measure myself. How is it I want to wake up in the morning? Do I want to have a company with 50 people, and is that how I want to live? These are things I actually didn't think about until I started my companies. So this is the thing that everyone comes up to me and says, I want to enter a market. I have a new idea. I have a new company idea. I want to get into a market, and they're all excited. They're ready to go. They're ready to put money behind it. And the first thing I ask them is, did you do any market research? And it's amazing. I coach a lot of companies here, and I'd say like 95% of them have not done the market research. They know that there is another similar product maybe, but they haven't done their market research. And the most important thing about this market research is, how are they statistically acquiring their clients? If they've already done the work, why do you need to go do the work? If you know that they're already acquiring clients in a certain manner, they've already done the work. They've already gone through a lot of pain. Maybe there's some areas that they don't know how they can make it cheaper, but it's very important to understand that. And I think this is probably the most important thing, which we constantly forget, is in a normal 24-hour life cycle of this human being, that ball should be going in a circle there, everyone has a certain unit of work they do. And that's pretty much the same thing day in, day out. And you're going to have an offer here, and this company X over here is going to have an offer, and your offer has to be better than company X's and has to fit in this work cycle of a person. It has to displace another process, right? If you're going to sell chewing gum and the person uses some other chewing gum, you're going to basically take market from another chewing gum, right? If he's using one game even, a game is also work. Because when you have free time during the day, your brain has idle time for doing work, so it goes to game. So if you're going to play someone's game, or you play another guy's game, you're also going to need to displace that process or service or product. So you need to bring new value, time savings, and you need to produce equal work with less force, right? So really, it's really key to understand the day in, day out cycle of the customer and how you're going to actually fit into their world. This is the things people miss a lot. So I'm going to show you some examples on how to get to market. So after Dell, I wanted to start a company that had high margins and high social value. So I was asking a lot of people, do you need a product built? I can build anything. And so I found a friend, and this was our first company, NewScribe, which is a voice recognition company for medical doctors. He came up to me and said, 20 doctors spend in 1 year, 20 doctors spend about $500,000 a year in transcription costs, which is medical transcription. They talk into a tape recorder, it's sent to India or gets sent to a transcription, it gets typed back, and the systems are selling from $14,000 to $100,000 a system. So I said, okay, that's a high margin product, high social value, that's interesting. So what's the first thing I did? I have a day job. I'm not going to quit my day job. I have to make a very statistically reliable move to the other job, which is my startup. So the first thing I did was I really wanted to model the ecosystem around the customer. So this is the classical transcription. You've got a doctor here, they talk on a tape recorder or a phone, and it goes to an outsourced transcriptionist or it goes to an in-source transcriptionist. They come back with a medical note, they type it up, then it goes back to the office staff, then it goes back to the doctor for corrections. So the best case scenario is 24 to 48 hours turnaround. And on top of that, there's a lot of mistakes, a lot of errors. So I said, okay, well, there's this thing called voice recognition. This was like kind of advent of pen name 2s and so forth. And voice recognition with drag and nuance wasn't working really well because you needed to really focus computational resources on the voice engine and no other applications. So everyone else was selling this solutions kind of like snake oil. It worked for a few days. You know, if you had a brand new XP computer and it was just perfectly set up, the voice recognition would work for a few days. But then registries corrupt and things slow down. So I was saying, okay, this is kind of the ecosystem that the doctor lives in, right? I'm not going to ask him to move away from the current process he has. It's not going to be very good for him, right? So here was the basic note that they were creating on a daily basis. And what I noticed is this history of present illness, for example. There were some fields that were redundant. So you visit a patient commonly, right? And they have reoccurring same issues usually. People have the same issues. So I developed a system that would create this note and would basically automatically populate previous histories, physicals, whatever you wanted to. And you could create any type of note you wanted. It was kind of like a Lego system. And all the other EMRs, electronic health records, were very complicated to use, and they had really their own workflow process. The process was completely different from what doctors are used to. They just want to create these notes. They want to talk into a tape recorder. That's the end result. So value of offer. So this is the number one thing. So now you're going to go into someone's ecosystem. You're going to replace what they're doing on a daily basis with something else, right? And it better be really good. So you really need to know, just map the system, a simple drawing like that. Understand, I was actually in the doctor's office. I was watching a walk from door to door. I didn't sit and have my sales guys go get me a list of things that they want to see in the next product. I have that as well, but it was completely different from what the doctor actually needed. So you need to get into the ecosystem of the customer. You need to understand the relationships and quantify the savings. So previously, this was the process, right? Boom, 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 boom. So I said, okay, well, if we can make notes go straight from the microphone to the computer to that document, that's obviously big savings for the doctor. That's something the doctor can understand, right? So the solution was real-time accurate medical dictation versus it had to have 5 minutes of training. The same exact note could be built with our template creation. The ROI had to be within 3 months. And then after that, transcription cost would go zero. It had to have no IT integration, had to have low support costs, and it couldn't have viruses, and had to be instant deployment. So what I started realizing is, okay, I understand how the doctor works in his business, but let's look at the other dependencies. So here's my offer. Here's an office. Let's say there's a hospital, and here's a group of doctors here. Well, it's a different use case, actually, or actually different cost per acquisition. In the bigger offices, you have an accountant, right? And the smaller offices, you don't have an accountant, right? So the scenario can change, and you really need to model all of your decision makers. In this office, the doctor is not the decision maker, the accountant is. So the cost to acquire a client, it's not just about having numbers, it's really just like modeling what your cost, what's the energy that you're gonna have to put in to close that sale, and restrictions we talked about in decision makers. So in the case of NewScribe, the average EMR sold for $12K. The other reps have between $100 to $400K to spend on doctors and staff. So you're flying out there convincing doctors to buy your product. Well, we're going to compete against guys that have up to $400K disposable budgets on these doctors, right? So they can take them to golf, they can take them to Hawaii. We can't do that. Large hospitals have long sales cycles. We can't do that. IT system integration, that kills every single deal. We can't do that. Voice recognition works 3 days on a fresh PC. Well, that's something I have a handle. I can deal with that. IT support costs, and we have zero marketing budget. Pretty tough, right? There's over 7,000 electronic medical record systems in America. So, given these requirements, it actually drives the design of the product. And I'm not just saying just how it works in the doctor's office, but did all the decision makers, the accounting guy, really understanding how you're going to get your ROI, it drives the development costs and my restrictions as a startup. And I think one of the worst things to do as a startup is give them money. Because you don't innovate. You innovate when you have restrictions. If everything is given to you, there's no innovation. I think that's what happens to a lot of big companies. They have a marketing office. They have they have all these offices, and everyone's got their own small job, but it doesn't really tie together. So I think it's really important to understand these things. Let's keep going here. All right. So once you have your value offer and you've quantified the savings, you've modeled it, you know the cost to acquire, now you want to test those premises with a minimum viable product, right? You want to get the most basic working screenshot even. Actually, my product was a working screenshot initially. It was just I taught myself PHP MySQL in like a few weeks, and I just built a screenshot to meet those requirements. And so this was the actual product in the end. It was like the iPhone for medical doctors. Every other system had drop-down menus. You're using .NET, ASP, these developments, and it was just exactly like how your current VCR remote or your remote control on your TV is. A million buttons. The developers got all the specifications. They did it all. Everyone made their own button. That's not really the case. So to be able to build a product that had zero implementation costs, we had to basically sell our product on the spot. That was the only way we could survive. We couldn't afford to fly out back to the doctor every month. We didn't have any cash. We had zero cash. We had one computer that we were sharing, and once we sold that computer, we bought two computers. So those kind of restrictions helped me design this. So basically, they select the patient, they select a template, and they begin document. They can create templates, which are those boxes of notes, and that's it. That's all the doctor needed. So that was the first company, and we did pretty well with that. We started off with like a few people, and the things I learned from Austin Digital helped as well. So the first problem was creating notes in a very, very quick manner for doctors. It's a big medical problem in America. The second problem was exchange of health records. So I was like, okay, it's time to do something bigger. Health record exchange in America is a big problem. In Estonia, you've got your ID card, you can go to any doctor, you can get your records. But at the point of need, time of need, if you don't have your medical records, you could be dead, right? And this happens a lot in America. Actually, more people die in doctor's offices than car accidents now in America. Pretty shocking, right? So I said, okay, there's this health record exchange. There's these really high-tech, high-end systems and really low-end systems. And none of them communicate, and even the high-end systems don't communicate with each other. They'll take it, they'll print it, they'll FedEx it, they'll use optical character recognition, feed it back into another system, then some guy will map the fields together. It doesn't matter. All you want to get is a medical note. It can be in paper form, whatever, fax. So I created something called iMedical, and the premise on this one was that Facebook had just come out, and I said, okay, you know what, let's copy LinkedIn. Doctors in America are medical professions. Again, understanding how the medical scene works in America. They're all money-driven. They want customers. They also cross-sell to each other, And so I wanted to basically create a community for doctors. They can come in here, they can exchange medical notes, and this was before anyone else was doing it. So initially, it was high risk because I didn't have any good baselines. Like there was no competition I could analyze. There was just like a lot of gut feeling, and it was really hard to get metrics. And then Google Health and Microsoft Health came along. So this really helped us boost investment. So we got up to 25 million investment. Now the investors are excited. Hey, you guys were first, and now we see Microsoft's behind this. We see Google's trying to do it as well. And again, no metrics, but that kind of gives you confidence, like you're hitting the right direction, right? Why would Google and Microsoft spend all this crazy money to go after the same market? So we believe the market acceptance was probable. And here's Google Health. They just shut down last month, or 2 months ago, January. This was like 2012, it was almost dead. People didn't want to have their records online. And on top of that, the insurance companies scared the heck out of the people, said, you know what, if I know you smoke, your insurance goes up. If I know you have diabetes, if I know this or that. So there's a huge fear. And the fear was that insurance companies get hold of your medical records and then charge you more. So really, this one kind of shocked me because I didn't see this one coming, So this company's publicly traded. It's on the NASDAQ, and I sold that company a few years ago. So competitors, research. So basically, going back to my personal interest, I wanted to see I've done it before. Can I do it again? Is it repeatable? In any market, and I don't care if it's high tech, low tech, can I do it? Because when I look at some people that have been successful, there are some that have done it over and over again. And there's a lot of guys that have just done it once, and they try and try again. So those are the stories that are kind of, the lucky guys. So I wanted to say, okay, can I methodically go into any market? I said, okay, well, I sold this company, now what do I want to do? I was doing HD video editing. HD video editing is like huge files, right? So I said, okay, I'll just make a system, and I called it Mongo files. And I said, I'll just exchange files. Really simple. You can go to a web browser and upload up to 2 gigs. And so I just started. Proof of concept took nothing to do, and I did some quick research on the 2 type of competitors I could go for, Mega Upload and YouSendIt. So these guys have done already a lot of work for me. They're already in the marketplace, right? So here's a tool called SEMrush. I recommend it if you want to analyze your competition. And so I type in YouSendIt here, and I can tell that I can see what their top organic keywords are. I can see which ads they're running, YouSendIt, YouSpace-send-it, file sharing, and YouSendIt is kind of like a more business client-oriented product, and then Mega Upload is kind of like for all the Pirate Bay kind of guys, right? So I got that. I understood that YouSendIt. This guy has a consumer base. They've got like 45 million in funding. I have nothing. So now I'm going to go and take their clients. How am I going to do that? Well, I created my monkey here. Very similar interface, choose the file, upload. Actually, I was on Dragon's Den in Sweden pitching this as well. But what I realized, okay, path of least resistance. There's all these marketing channels you can go for, right? So if you're going to grab a client, might as well grab a client that already exists in someone else's network, or they already know that there's a need for the product, right? It's very targeted. So why do I need to go and put ads for file upload? I would spend like thousands of dollars a day. So I said, okay, SEO. I started learning SEO. I was very interested in marketing after I left Vemix and iMedicore. And so I realized YouSendIt is actually a word. And we were number 3 for a while. So I just said, why don't you send it with Mongo files? So I just hijacked their clients. 20-30% of my clients come from them. I just offer half the price. So again, understanding your competitors, because they do all the work for you a lot of times, and you're going to displace their product or service. And how you get them, your cost per action again. Here's my cost per action. It's almost like 0 for this, right? I got to keep writing some blogs to move this back up. Actually, they were on a very heavy SEO campaign to push me out of here. See, you send it, and I said, why don't you send it here? Alternative, right? So I just made it a little more friendly. We got a monkey, and you got the plans. And so again, here's another minimum viable product. Oh yeah, I went to Dragon's Den in Sweden. I was going to pitch it there. I thought it was something interesting to do. And again, I was very methodical and mathematical on how I'm going to enter the market and how I'm going to go to the show. So I said, okay, I can take the $270K I was asking for them, or I calculated that I can make $160K if I just simply I had a big bulletin board here, and I looked at the previous Dragon's Den shows, and they were basically showing the logo. When the show played, my assumption was they're going to show my logo. They didn't show the logo. They're very interesting in Sweden about that. So again, here's another company, Screen Innovations. This is a company I helped. They're a leader in screen technology. It's projector screens that work during the daytime. And I looked at them, and I said, okay, they were already in the market, but we basically improved their SEO by 300%. They had a bunch of dealers, and no one was indexing those dealers. So if you typed in like movie projector screen, Hawaii, movie projector screen, Tartu, they had a whole database. So it's another clever thing we did there. We did something for Norwegian Cruise Lines. Again, data-driven. We got together. Norwegian Cruise Line gave us 20 vacations, and they said, okay, we want to just see our response rates. We want to see our response rates for our clients, where they're from, demographics. So we built a gateway, and we did an SMS campaign. It's like answer 3 questions right, and you get a chance to go on Norwegian Cruise Line. So I think we're running out of time, right? Or do I have unlimited time? Yeah. Okay, we do, right? All right. So anyway, I could go really detailed into this too. It's, again, statistics. We knew that the ideal platform was TV, so we went to RevShare, which is cost per action TV. and they're based in California. And we said, okay, we've got this Norwegian cruise line. We'll make the commercial. You give us free airtime, and every lead that you bring to our website or to the SMS, we'll give you commission. So we're able to do that for free as well. And I think we did like 280K the first month. Sorry, we did about 280K, and I think only 30K was profit because most of it goes to a lot of other costs. Anyway, CPC, LTV, CPA, all this stuff. I want you not to focus so much on these metrics, but understand why those metrics, how to build metrics, what metrics you need. So we talked about cost to acquire a client, and it's a really calculation that allows you to realize if a business idea is dead before you begin, right? Why would I go and invest all this time and money if just the simple math doesn't add up? And most people just don't do the simple math. And it's not that hard, but you really need to do this. So a friend comes up to me again, hey, I got a great idea. Let's do another company. Okay, what do you want to do? You know, this best of the best, every time you go through London Airport, they've got these like Ferraris and so forth. All right, he wanted to create this website. I said, really? I'm like, I think the main reason they're selling these cars is because, you know, you basically go to the airport, usually a high-end consumer as well because you fly a lot, and you're going to basically order cars. And we started watching them, and they started doing more online business. So the first thing is we you know, this is their business basically. If you guess where the soccer ball is, exactly, and at the end of the month, whoever's closer wins the car, right? So proven business model. He's already done a lot of the work. So I said, okay, let's just do some math on this to see these values. So we did. We said, if we make this a Facebook game, and long story short, in the end, we did the math. We realized that they kind of lied to us that they were just getting online, trying to acquire online customers, and their metrics were completely whack. We created an affiliate program. We tested against their metrics if it was true, and immediately I realized this business is not viable. And we even did a proof of concept. We even had this. So for a few $1,000, I saved myself, you know, years, and who knows what else, pain. So here's another guy, Elon Musk, Tesla. You guys understand. Here's another guy that's maybe done it more than once. So it's a very methodical process. And I love his remark: if success is not a likely outcome, why embark on the journey? You know, people were asking, well, why don't people go to hydrogen cars? And he's like, well, the most ideal the most ideal efficiency on a hydrogen is nowhere near that of lithium batteries. You know, it's really calculated moves. I mean, guys like this can do it over and over again. You know, you can get a rocket into space. You can make PayPal. So these are very methodical individuals. Here's some data about the growth of new technologies, and manual effort goes down. I'm going to speed through this. So sometimes the case is you need all four of these knowledge transfers to get to market. You need the knowledge, you need the technology, you need the tools, implementation. Let's look at Tesla. The knowledge of batteries existed, tools existed, lithium-ion batteries were just coming out, and Silicon Valley had the understanding of how to implement that. You know, I mean, 100 years ago, people were using electric cars. But I heard I could keep going though, right? Or no? Okay, I'll get 5 more minutes. I'll get to the punchline here. Anyway, so sometimes it's the case, you have all the metrics in place, you know you're taking to market, you have to wait for this point where, call it inflection point. And so again, looking at the electric car, it was confirmed by, 100 years ago it was confirmed, 30% of the cars were actually running on electric. People didn't want to hand start them, or they didn't want to run steam to power a car. So 100 years ago it was verified. It was verified of the EV1. And everyone else in the market is making these hybrids, basically. They're not all electrics. So real quickly about the product awareness, we talked about this. You're going to spend a lot of money. If someone knows nothing about lip balms, for example, you're going to spend a lot of money making them aware of organic lip balms, for example, right? But if you go for clients that already have or that are looking for organic lip balms, you're going to get them. Same thing with electric cars. If you're looking for people that are electric cars, there's only one choice, Tesla. If you're looking for hybrids and things, there's like, Volt, there's all kinds of stuff out there that has the right driving range. So again, this is really important to understand, and if your competition's already done the work for you, go for those clients. I won't go too much into this. Basically, Silicon Valley helped crack this issue of keeping the battery life going by monitoring temperatures. Initially, they wanted to build a sports car. Done. Now they're going to build the world's best car. Done. Targeted high net worth individuals, early adopters, reconfirm market with minimum viable product. Here's gaming companies also building games. Gaming is the same story. You have to understand your human behavior of your client. And if you look at Zynga, those guys change their games within 24 hours. They're constantly monitoring their metrics from their clients. And as soon as someone's going to leave, they have to change form. And they've got their own issues too. They're over metric. So Pixar, another story. Almost done here. Pixar is another interesting company. Most people, when they make movies, they have someone that writes a script. Then they have someone that, the director, creator. They have a different approach. They have an engineering approach. They build the entire movie from the ground up at the same time. They take each piece of the movie, they take the control groups, they test it, they refine, they measure it. So it's not a fluke that Pixar comes out with really good movies with really good storylines. So again, real quick, value of the offer, map the ecosystem, the relationships, who are the decision makers, quantify the savings to them, to you, understand the world they live in, cost to acquire, critically important. You can't go to market without understanding this cost. And sometimes, maybe you worked for a company and now you're into your first company and you really don't know what this was, as I didn't. Minimum viable product, just get the minimum thing to see if you're on the right track. Don't go in and start building a product and then find out it's the wrong product. Constantly test with the customer. So assume nothing, test everything. Measure, refine, repeat, increase your rate of success, reduce latency decisions. Tools, rescue time is great. A lot of people have no clue how much time they waste on Facebook. Analytics, I use this on a daily basis. This is just all automated, right? I can see my conversion rates. I can see how much revenue I generated. I can see organic. It's really good tools. What's this? Analytics again. Here I'm doing something else here. So get to failure fast, measure the results, refine, repeat, and this will accelerate your likelihood of success. All right? Any questions? Is that a lot?
We have
time for questions.
We have a couple of minutes for questions. So 2 questions. So there's one from the back there.
Yeah, sure. Well, number one is just learn from your clients, right? So if it's an online business like that SEO, SEM Rush tool, I know what their cost to acquire the client is. And something you have a kind of a warm feeling on, but you can find a cost to acquire a client in any business model. You'd have to give me more specifics on exactly the business you're talking about, but there's always a cost. If you're spending 10 hours a day on a phone, there's a cost associated with that. And that's why it's really good to put the metrics. So if you have some guys doing cold calling, some guys doing blogging, there's a certain amount of force required, and that also comes back with some revenue, right? And revenue is not really a good leading indicator. It's a lagging indicator. It's really, the leading indicator is the customer, the experience, what every company talks about and very few do successfully. So I think you can really model it because in the day cycle of every human being, you're going to be taking time away from them, and there's going to be a cost. So if you're hiring really cheap people to do cold calls, there's a cost. If you have only 2 clients you need to close, then you need to realize, okay, I need $200,000, $300,000 to go play golf with these guys. That's my cost per acquisition. If it's a really high volume deal, it's a different. So you really have to really analyze it, but you have to slowly force yourself to start measuring these things, because what happens is you get into that hamster cage. Next thing you know, you're doing a bunch of things and you're not going anywhere and you don't know why, because you can't step back and look at the measurements. Am I working on things on a daily basis that are more in line with my talents, or should I outsource that? What is my time worth? So I think really you have to really take this kind of approach for yourself as well. When I started the company, I didn't think that I was going to have 50 people. I realized I created a jail cell. I was trying to escape when I left Dell. I had 50 people. I was yelling at people every day. And now I live in Tartu. I don't drive at all. I live on top of a grocery store. I have a lot more time for myself and the ideas I have. So you really want to model how you see yourself in that ecosystem as well. So I don't know if that answers your question, but.
One last question. Excuse me? one more, last one, to the honors.
The other thing also is, especially in kind of the internet-related businesses, it really is a very long time period in terms the customer life value would be really over a very long period in terms of getting the return. In terms of
It depends. I mean, it depends on the model. Gaming is really high risk. You get instant returns, and then you get instant people leaving, to another game. So you spend all this time and money building a game, and you have a shortened window of opportunity to be successful, and then they're gone. So you have to constantly. That's why a lot of these gaming companies can create another game over and over with success. There's why movie companies can create movies over and over with success. There's a methodical, mathematical approach to all of this. And if you just do some simple measurements about your audience that you're going to sell your product or service to, and what it costs you on a daily basis to get them, you're going to realize that things that you thought maybe were the way to get your clients are not. Because the math really, there's a lot of times I've made huge mistakes by going with my gut and not looking at the numbers. And the numbers said, you know what? This is a way cheaper way to do it. You don't need to go high tech. We didn't need to have these huge online budgets. We just went there. We had a few guys, put them in suits, and said, "You go start talking to doctors. Here's your commission." So you have to really look at you have to really understand the ecosystem of the client and how you're going to get in there and provide that value.
Great. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, John.